Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, October 20th. It is 6:06. We're going to call to order the Little Haiti Revitalization Trust monthly board meeting.
Okay, roll call. Leslie England Dorsland,
Present.
Ashley Toussaint, Alyssa Zapata is absent.
Present.
Thank you. Alyssa Zapata is absent. Robert Holland, Rudy Meme is absent. We have quorum to proceed.
Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to City of Miami Ordinance Number 11469, codified in Chapter 2, Article 6 of the City Code, must register with the City Clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities before City staff, boards, committees, and the City Commission. A copy of said ordinance is available in the office of the City Clerk, City Hall. The material for each item on the agenda is available online on the City's website. Any person may be heard by the board through the chair for not more than 2 minutes on any proposition before the board unless modified by the chair. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, the opportunity to be heard may be at such later date before on such proposition. The chair will advise the public when the public may have the opportunity to address the board during the public comment period or at any other designated time.
Go ahead and open it up to public comment. Just please come up to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes. Just state your name and your address, please. Okay, don't be shy. Any public comment? All right. So we'll go ahead and move it. I think we have you want to do announcements?
When I don't see police here, I know we rescheduled the meeting, so we'll have them do their quarterly at the next meeting.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and do legislative items, approval of the minutes. So all those in favor, go ahead, you have the motion.
Motion to approve minutes from the September 23rd?
No, I'm sorry, we just have the September 9th.
September 9th? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve minutes from September 9th.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Absent waiver?
Yes, I would like to request an absence waiver for Alyssa and also Rudy. They were unable to attend.
All right, motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we'll go ahead and go to 4C, Resolution 2025-014, Miami Homes for All.
Yes, so Miami Home for All presented at the last board meeting. There were additional information that was requested by the board. So we have two representatives here tonight, Gobind and Audrey, who are going to come up. We have their presentation on the TV behind you. It's also in your packet if you would prefer to review it as well.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. My name is Audrey Adanis. I'm the Deputy Director of Miami Homes for All. Since 1985, we've advocated to support and ensure that every Miami-Dade resident has a safe, affordable place to call home. Annie Lord, our Executive Director, wasn't able to make it tonight due to a family emergency, so you all are stuck with me. And so we can go ahead and we can go ahead and get started. And so we wanted to talk to all of you about creating and preserving Little Haiti's affordable housing. The stock of affordable housing, we're talking a lot about naturally occurring affordable housing, and we can go to our next slide. And so again, Miami Homes for All, we want to make sure that every Miami-Dade resident has a safe, affordable place to call home. To the right, you'll see a strategy wheel, and you'll see all the different ways that we do our work. At the end of the day, our two main goals are to increase the access and supply of housing here in Greater Miami. And so what does this look like? It looks like advising decision makers, so meeting with elected officials and stakeholders. It looks like organizing housing finance, supporting small-scale developers and legacy property owners, improving the housing navigation. And so housing navigation simply means supporting youth and families and seniors and singles, all populations, exiting homelessness or experiencing housing insecurity. And so we work with the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust in ensuring that, we manage an affordable housing database, and we support youth and families and other households in accessing permanent housing. And we also develop the leadership of youth and young adults, as well as legacy property owners and smaller developers, access, whether that's technical assistance or professional development. So one of our programs is the Youth Voice Action Collective. So we support youth and young adults that are experiencing or have lived experience of homelessness, and we provide them with professional development, workshops, and other professional exercises. So going to meet with elected officials, speaking at various meetings, and so on. And then lastly, building consensus around the housing priorities that I'm outlining. Again, it's all about how do we increase access of affordable housing and the supply of that housing. So, our two main programs, again, one of them is around youth and family homelessness, and we are starting to expand our program to support singles and seniors. So you can see here, from October 2024 to August 2025, we've served 123 youth and families and 54 seniors and singles. And we were able to assist 277 households access temporary housing. So that includes crisis housing, transitional housing, or other housing programs. And so we do a lot of events as well. So whether that's around convening, around housing issues, again, around preservation, development of new construction, and so on, we convene folks to build consensus, as well as, we are the lead agency for various initiatives at the county level, including the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust, Cornet Community Plan to end youth homelessness, and so we are the lead for the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program per HUD, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I'll pass it over to Govind.
So, hi everyone, I'm Govind Srivastava. I'm the Director of Capital Solutions at Miami Homes for All, and fortunately wasn't able to come to the last meeting and presentation, but really excited to be with y'all here today. And our colleague Lisa Martinez is stepping in right now, and she'll be also presenting today. But really just wanted to round out this introduction into Miami Homes for All by first introducing some of our research. Like, this kind of exemplifies some of the research that we do. So for this example here, we were really interested in analyzing the affordable housing developments which are currently in the construction phase, because we know that there's this huge gap of affordable housing in Miami-Dade, but we're not seeing these affordable housing units and affordable homes really come up. And so we were really curious, so this kind of exemplifies our approach. We analyzed our pipeline of affordable housing developments. These are more large-scale developments, and we're trying to figure out why they're not moving online. And we found this gap of $1.7 billion of subsidy that's really needed to push these projects forward. So though we have existing funders, like private funders, the county and CDFIs, there's still this need for greater public investment, and that's really where we're seeing a gap. So this just exemplifies kind of our research, and just wanted to call that out here now, because our research really, and our experience as an organization really pushes us to create programs to fill needs that we're finding. So if you go to the next slide, I'll just finally round out the summary of our programs. Maybe just go to the next slide, yeah. And we're going to talk a lot about 3Cs, and Lisa leads that program, and I support with it, so really excited to share more about the program and what we're hoping to do here in Little Haiti. But along with 3Cs, I lead the Funders Collaborative, which is really meant to address that issue of funding by coordinating investors and helping accelerate and organize capital into development and preservation. And so though we see that there's this need for greater investment, we also see that if we can pull together funders in an organized way, instead of 10 funders funding 10 different projects, if we get those funders on one project, then another, then we can actually move those projects forward. So that's kind of the theory of change there, and we help not only convene those funders together, but we really help connect developers to the funders and have some sort of light touch technical assistance just to help them kind of present. But really one of the broadest goals here is to grow the pot for affordable housing development, because we know that that's one of the biggest gaps, right, or one of the biggest needs when we move to kind of move affordable housing projects forward. But that's really thinking about both small scale and large scale. But I'll kick it over to Lisa to talk more about our work with 3Cs, and then I'll hop back in for a quick case study.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to see you all again. I'm Lisa Martinez. I am the project manager for the 3Cs initiative. If you can just go to the next slide. So as we had initially covered at our last presentation, 3Cs Miami-Dade really focuses in on small-scale affordable development. And when we're thinking about the core priorities that we are wanting to be able to emphasize, it's one, increasing affordable housing in lower income communities near transit. Two, preventing mass displacement by engaging lower income residents in development. And then three, helping mission-aligned property owners build wealth. And so when we reflect upon Little Haiti, and Little Haiti being one of our neighborhoods within the 3Cs initiative, it kind of checks all those particular points in being able to emphasize a perfect fit for 3Cs. Next slide. And so when we're talking about the effort, it's really about connecting community to capital. And when we're thinking about connecting community to capital, the importance of being able to make sure that there is a preparedness, a readiness for that capital. And that begins with providing the strongest level of technical assistance, tailored one-on-one consulting from the pre-development stage all the way through construction, including those applications for funding. When we reflect upon the success the case study, one of the case studies you'll see, and the other developers that we have and are supporting, the notion of pre-development grants and the importance of a source of pre-development grants was essential, and being able to make sure that we get an opportunity to be able to reflect upon the co-development of these type of opportunities for landowners that would cover expenses such as the design, environmental studies, and permitting, and other elements that really are hard to be able to find resources for before you tap into additional funding sources. Now, what makes 3Cs additionally unique is the fact that we recognize that it's really important to work with, in collaboration with, community. And so in each of the neighborhoods that we work in, we're connected directly with neighborhood-based nonprofits, and ensuring that that connection to residents and development and developers, that there's a partnership in place, and that the work that unfolds is done in partnership, so that as opportunities for housing emerges, those opportunities are connected to the needs of the community. And so as we learn through the TA that we're providing to landowners, the pre-development grants and the readiness that prepares them for the fulfillment of these projects, and working closely with neighborhood liaisons, quite candidly, what we're doing the entire time is what we have coined at times as action research, because we recognize that the supports needed on a one-to-one basis are essential, but we are learning critical elements and critical lessons that will inform systems change. These lessons learned will really lead to policy change, developer capacity, and funding. Next slide. And so the benefits of the 3Cs initiative thus far, reflecting upon the fact that we engage with community on a regular basis, the engagement with residents and property owners to participate in neighborhood planning. We're also emerging with benefits of economic development, as well as inclusive of investment in neighborhood real estate, job creation within the developments that are happening, and wealth building for the local property owners. And when we're reflecting upon affordable housing, we're talking about 40 units with majority affordable at 80% AMI or lower. And so that's really at the heart of what we're trying to be able to accomplish. Next slide. And so within our current work, and I know that we spoke a little bit more in depth about this at our last meeting, but you had wanted to be able to have specific tangible data from the work that we're doing. And so currently we have 10 developers. With those 10 developers, we're speaking about individuals that own properties in Little Haiti, Overtown, Allapattah, and North Miami, and Brownsville, Liberty City. With those 10 developers, we have 15 projects, and within those 15 projects, there's 169 units that are emerging with this project, within this effort. And it is 10 new construction, 4 rehabs, 45 units are home ownership, including Place Louverture, which you know about, you've invested in, and are clearly wanting to see that come to fruition as well. Next slide. And so now I know that it's important to be able to have a sense of who are our developers? How do they come to the table? Why do they come to the table? And so, and how does it unfold? Really a detailed approach from beginning to end. And so I'm going to turn it over to Govind. He'll be able to explain a little bit more about Dr. Bestman and her work and her projects.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I think this is a really great example of the work that we've been doing and the work that we want to continue doing here in Little Haiti. But this example is a project that we've been working on with Dr. Bestman, and so we wanted to really start with who the person is behind this project. So there's a project in Overtown, and Dr. Evelina Bestman was born in Overtown. I think she's 80-something, 84, 85. So, you know, grew up in a shotgun shack in Overtown and had to leave and come back later, but she found a lot of success as a healthcare practitioner. We're focusing on mental health. She founded New Horizons Community Health Center, part of Chapman Partnership for the Homeless, and really just has a deep commitment to her community here or over in Overtown. And so for us, it's really important to work with developers who are mission aligned, right? We're not just trying to create units, we're trying to help build homes which are part of the community, they're integrated with the people that live here, and their design represents what folks are looking for. And so Dr. Bestman's vision was to build those types of homes, like affordable homes where folks can stay in their community, live comfortably and safely, but also celebrate and preserve the fabric of their neighborhood through the design and the housing that she's creating. And so I think she's a really great example. And if you go to the next slide, we'll kind of move from the developer to the project. And so we kind of start on the left here, thinking about the population that this project is serving. So really, Dr. Bestman was focused on building multi-generational households and multi-generational homes that can support households with a grandparent, parents and the kids all living in the same place. She also wanted to build homes for seniors and long-term residents in Overtown, as well as young adults and working families, which are more and more part of the fabric of that community. And so her design really reflects those goals. She has a mix of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and those larger 3-bedroom units for multi-generational living. And the architecture of the place is really inspired by like her Bahamian connections, but also like the kind of look of the neighborhood, the look and feel of the neighborhood that she's building in. Really, she's focusing on making something that's integrated within Overtown and not, a development that'll challenge or kind of goes against what that community is about. And then if you look at the price, I think that's pretty illustrative of the type of projects we want to work on, right? Like all below 80% AMI, but what does that really mean and what does that look like? 1-bedroom units at around $700, 2-bedroom units at $840. Like looking at Overtown's rentals right now, like this is kind of unheard of. And so we're able to unlock these prices by working with these types of developers and giving them the support, which Lisa talked about, and we'll explore a little more. And finally, just moving to the top is the financing. And so this project got a large portion of its money from the Omni-CRA. And so when we think back about that research that we did, that $1.7 billion gap, right, government kind of institutions and agencies can help fill that gap through funding like this forgivable loan, because it makes affordability possible. With higher interest rate loans and things like that, it's really, really hard for developers to create this type of affordability in neighborhoods like Overtown, like Little Haiti. But even if we look at the financing, I also want to just call out that this is kind of sequential. So the first thing that came in was the $100,000 grant from Miami Homes for All, and that was really catalytic to help Dr. Bessman get to the place where she was able to ask for that $2.8 million. So as Lisa mentioned, like there's design work, there's assessments, and then there's the problems that come up from those assessments. You have to deal with all those things before you're ready to actually get that construction loan and move forward with your project. And so then, she got the grant, and she went to Omni-CRA, was able to get this really large amount of money, and I mean, her project got, I think, probably the largest percentage of money from a subsidy, like a forgivable loan. But there was still a gap of around $650,000, and that's when we connected our 3Cs program with our Funders Collaborative program, which we run as well, to help Dr. Bessman pitch her project to other funders. And so she was, having like kind of the inside scoop to that program as well. Like she was really well received by private funders because she was able to ask for interest rates that worked for them. And that's only because she was able to get to the stage of like having the grant and having the forgivable loan. And so that's how she's able to actually secure the financing for her project. So if we go to the next slide, we kind of talked a lot about Dr. Bessman and the project, but how did Miami Homes for All actually support her? I mean, we've referenced a few of these things, but the first thing was connecting her to capital, so that pre-development grant that actually we helped deploy. That second and third things are like examples of the technical assistance that we provide. And so, again, looking at that timeline, right, we're in 2025, so this project, it's not at construction yet. We really helped Dr. Bessman move through the pre-development phase and now the financing, approvals, designs, and permitting phase. So this is all this kind of support, these bullets at the bottom, come in these first two little bubbles here. So even in the early phases, we supported Dr. Bessman with comparing contractor bids, which is really important for smaller scale developers because, sometimes like you get a reference to a contractor or someone, but they provide a bid which is maybe too high, maybe it's more than you need, or it's things that you don't actually need for your project. Like I think RTA, one of my colleagues compares it to getting a neurosurgeon to put a Band-Aid on, right? Like you don't need to spend all that money for some simple things. So for example, Dr. Bessman was facing that issue, and we helped her compare different bids, negotiate fees with contractors, and really like get her project down when it comes to cost. Some other things that we've been helping her with are design and schema, just project management, which is really important with a development project that is very complicated and has so many different elements. And then, as we kind of mentioned before, developing pro forma budgets and funding, so that Omni-CRA application, we worked really closely with her to secure that money. And even, going to the Funders Collaborative, it's like, yes, there's the Funders Collaborative and some support there, but our technical assistance provider is really the one helping create the ask for funders and helping her present the project to them. And so this all is happening, right, in just these, all before construction, but we're going to continue working with Dr. Bessman for whatever needs arise through the construction phase as well in 2026. And yeah, I think that kind of sums up the case study here.
Thank you, Govin. And so when you think about the idea of the support and the TA that comes forward, I know that we had talked about distinct timelines of that, but last time we were here, and really reflecting upon the reality of what does this look like when we are supporting and collaborating and working with organizations like yourself, but also with landowners, and in being able to understand that it doesn't happen immediately, but that it also, we also want to elevate the fact that in partnership with you, in partnership with landowners, we go from the very beginning stages of a project all the way through realization, and that TA doesn't go away. And in being able to figure out how, and through that process, we're continuing to learn, continuing to advocate at a systems level. Next slide, please. And so when we are reflecting upon the work that we are proposing to have you consider today, and being able to really contemplate the idea of what this partnership could look like, we are beginning with a funding request with a focus on 4 to 5 mission-aligned projects in Little Haiti. And that really is coming in at a cost of $150,000 when we're thinking about that labor kind of intensive TA that travels along with individuals from the very beginnings of projects and all the manners that we have described. When we think about what we're proposing today, it is a 1 year with the suggested renewal and rescoping of services and costs in November of 2026. And I think what we want to be able to say is that what we are seeing with this work is that that if you provide the support, if you travel the journey along with landowners in their communities, that real success can emerge, and you will see projects that are actually built out by the community for the community. But we don't want you to make that assessment immediately at a 2-year mark. We want you to be able to say, did that really kind of deliver on what we initially thought? Does this seem like it's the best approach for year 2? But noting that the timeline that Govind just detailed, and this is not immediate results on the very first day, but we do want to be able to make sure that there's an accountability in your investment within that process. The approach, we're hoping to be able to have a co-branded partnership with Little Haiti Revitalization Trust, in close collaboration with you, going through the recruitment process of the individuals that would be part of this process, vetting pre-development, grants, and construction financing. And so when you heard about the Funders Collaborative, when you heard about the approach to the applications that would be moving forward, I know that we also, at our previous presentation, there was really a clear reflection that the trust can't be the answer for a project from A to Z. It needs to be able to be considered a partner. The investments that you make should be leveraged with other entities across and financing sources. There should be diversified solutions, and we want to make sure that approach and that strategy is contemplated. The program in and of itself really focuses in on community outreach and recruitment. That would be at the forefront of our work, vetting high-touch, one-to-one technical assistance with those 4 to 5 mission-aligned projects, and support with funding requests for 4 to 5 projects. And so as we had shared at our last presentation, today you heard of one particular deep dive case study. We also spoke about the Starks at our last presentation, and there you learned that we helped support their submission to the county for NOAA grants on 3 of their properties. They also had a submission to the Omni CRA, and those subsidies, those supports have continued to come along with the work and that the TA program provides. And so this particular program for those 4 to 5 mission-aligned projects, we anticipate would be receiving that very one-to-one technical assistance, high-touch effort. Next slide. And so when you're thinking about, well, let's see what's supposed to happen, what are the timelines, how do we make sure that at key milestone processes that we can make sure that it's unfolding in the way that, that we all agree upon. And so if this is a concept that you feel it's in alignment with the mission of the organization, we want to be able to hit the ground running right out of the gate with a co-branded pipeline cultivation through direct outreach and events. I know that at our last meeting, we already heard of individuals that have come to you on a consistent basis that you want to be able to help support, but that you know that there's a need for TA. this is a moment where we would be collaborating with you to define those 4 to 5 projects. Once we have a pipeline of potential deals, we want to dive deeper into the analysis of the deals, define a needs assessment and a final vetting alongside with you. And once we have those deals, we would like to be able to present those deals, the recommendations based upon that vetting outreach and all those different steps. We want to make sure that we're here presenting to you the proposed projects in December of this year. Once we get your go-ahead in the beginning of the year of 2026, the TA one-on-one support for the pre-development, the community engagement, accessing financing, securing needed partners, project management, workshops as needed. This is really a nuanced, defined approach where we will need to meet the landowners where they're at, meet them at where they're at with the concept that they're trying to be able to accomplish as well. And we do also want to make sure that we're supporting pre-development grant funding requests to the trust and others. And so when we reflect upon the Funders Collaborative, I do want to underscore that Miami Homes for All, Gobin is the one that leads the Funders Collaborative, but that is an effort that Miami Homes for All is the leader in Miami-Dade and is bringing national best practices to Miami-Dade and bringing funders in alignment with common priorities that are in alignment with the trusts as well. And through August of 2026 through November of 2026, we want to support in securing the financing. And so that one-on-one support continues with the development of the pro forma, budget development, and narrative for funding proposals directly to funders and through the Funders Collaborative that we just met. So when we're thinking about the 3 Cs initiative, that is most certainly one where we wrap holistically our arms around the landowner and we want to work closely with them through this process, but it is not a process where 3 Cs does it alone. We need the trust, we need Funders Collaborative, we need others that are mission aligned to be able to move the project forward. And when we are at that stage, noting that we have all of the information that would make a strong proposal to be considered, because I also heard at the last time that we were here, that there are oftentimes individuals that you want to be able to support, but that you don't have the information to be able to assess. And so being able to bring forward the pro formas, the proposals, the budget development, the right partners to the table that you know will realize a project, we want to be able to make sure that those requests are ready for your consideration. Next slide. And so here you see Miami Homes for All's full team. I am a consultant that's brought on board, but Miami Homes for All with the leader, Annie Lord, we've got Audrey, we've got Gobin here. This is a comprehensive full team that speaks to the delivery of a mission that is very much in alignment with preserving affordability and cultural legacy. And in being able to reflect upon Little Haiti, there is no other better partner to be able to do that than the Little Haiti Revitalization Trust. And so we thank you for preliminarily considering our proposal and hoping to be able to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a couple of questions. The first one, when you talked about serving 123 youth and families, 54 seniors and singles from October 2024 to August 2025, do you have a percentage of how many of those individuals came from the Little Haiti area?
No, we don't have that percentage. A lot of these clients are those that are in the homeless system currently, or were in the homeless system. And so that data can be acquired from the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust, but we do not collect that data.
Okay.
But if I'm understanding you correctly, that would be really interesting information that you would like to be able to have. And Audrey, I think we can be able to gather that information just so that we can be able to provide you then an understanding of all these other services that Miami Homes for All does, so that in the future you could be able to consider how we could partner with you as well on those fronts.
No, of course. The next question is regarding 10 developers, 169 units, 15 projects. The 10 developers come from, I guess, it's going to be Little Haiti, Overtown, Alapata, and North Miami. Are there any specific, developers that are specific for the Little Haiti area?
Yes. And so, and then the only, I think maybe there's the reason there's a discrepancy in there is because there's also Brownsville, Liberty
Okay,
City.
okay.
And so, when we have Place Louverture currently in the pipeline of the projects, but we are now currently sourcing a pipeline and working very closely currently with the Haitian American CDC to be able to make sure that we're connecting with an individual landowners as they are one of our partners connecting the dots on that front.
So only one developer right now for Little Haiti?
Out of the 10, yes.
Out of 10, one developer. And then that's the 45 units that you referenced, so we're looking approximately 25%, okay, 25% units. Okay. And then when you talked about the 4 to 5 mission-aligned projects, have those projects been identified yet, or that's where you're looking to collaborate with the trust? So identified. So this funding request of $150,000, I'm going to just say you're asking for 300 because you're asking for 150 this year with possibly another funding in November of next year for another 150?
What
To be transparent, just so we know.
if we're contemplating the potentiality of us collaborating for 2 years, yes.
Okay.
But I will also say, when we say $150,000, we're also reflecting upon what other resources and supports we leverage and bring to the table on that front too.
Of course, okay. And so the projects have not been identified yet?
Yes, thank you for that. And I think that's a really critical point. We come to the table ready to be able to partner with you. We want to be able to identify those 4 to 5 projects with the trust and define, are there individuals? Now, we are prepared to do the sourcing, the pipeline sourcing with community partners that we have at the table already, but very much prepared and interested in being able to say, do you have individuals that you already have in the pipeline? Do you want to be able to work and kind of reach out with us and do that together?
Didn't have any more questions. Anything else from the board?
Through the chair, I have a couple of questions, and that's going back to our relationship with FIU, the master plan. I'm confused, still not clear on how this delineates from a commitment, a financial commitment we already made for something similar. And I wanted to know if I could, with the master plan, wasn't there supposed to be an opportunity for us to get some guidance on how we could roll out something like this, like affordable housing opportunities? Or that's not what that was about, that whole process?
So actually, in the FIU strategic plan, it talked about how we have limited capacity and that we would need to partner with potential like CDFIs in order to be able, I think there was like a need of X amount of millions of dollars that the community would need for us to be able to get to where we want to go. So part of that is how do we create affordable housing, right? We do have a actual number in the Magic City SAP that talks about the dollars, because some of, like for example, the permit fee dollars that we're supposed to get are the payment in lieu, the fees in lieu of building is specifically supposed to go to affordable housing, right? So when they pull their next permit and we're supposed to get an estimated 1.7, that's actually earmarked to go towards just affordable housing, because our deliverables like over 100 units that we're supposed to complete with the dollars that we receive at the trust. So going back to the question about the FIU plan, it talks about utilizing strategies either by creating partnerships, right, or using CDFIs or other financial institutions to be able to bring that funding to the community in order for us to create it. So this program is providing, I think this is, for me, it symbolizes the epitome of what the trust is supposed to be doing, because we're empowering residents and property owners within Little Haiti to be part of what we see of the gentrification, right? And for them to be empowered with the knowledge of how they can be part of this, and increasing generational wealth, because now they're being able to pass that on in legacy. So, you know, we're preserving these owners, we're empowering them financially as well.
Vice Chair, if I can just interrupt real quick, I'm sorry. Okay. Just a follow-up question on to what Ashley stated. So what would be the difference in investing in Miami Homes for All and the 3Cs and what we already invested in to Place Louverture? What's the difference? Because we already made a large sum of investment there. So now I just want to make sure, and I understand the technical assistance, the presentation, but just making sure we're not duplicating efforts and duplicating funding requests. So is there a true delineation from that funding in comparison to this one?
So honestly, I would say the potential for this one has a greater potential to produce more units than what we're getting with the other project with South Florida Community Land Trust. South Florida Community Land Trust, though, is a home ownership project. So it does give that added value where you know that the people who are coming into that project are homeowners. I cannot guarantee that what the units coming out of the project with Miami Homes for All, whether or not there'll be home ownership. More than likely, these developers would probably want to get the return on their investment more towards rental, but there may be projects that are home ownership as well. So I think as we identify the projects, each project, depending on the lot size, what the zoning is, how many units they can create would look different. So, but I think the potential, because I believe they think they can do about 30, am I correct, units, affordable housing between the 4 to 5 projects?
Yes, and I just need to be able to, yes, I just want to make sure that, I'm going to look at the doc, yes.
Okay, yes.
But I also want to make sure that we elevate, Place Louverture is one of our projects as well, and the fact that Miami Homes for All, through the 3Cs initiative and the pre-development grants, they have received support and advocacy through the complexity of the different systems. In addition to that, we have invested $100,000 when they were facing a stopgap measure of not being able to get to the finish line. And so when we're thinking about the differences, we're one and the same to an extent, but we have invested not only from the perspective of TA, but also through the pre-development grants, and are actually proactively making sure that we keep our ear to the ground as they're trying to be able to close out their process. If by chance they need additional resources, that we're also present there.
So I think just this is more for the technical assistance to get actually residents into these units, as opposed to the funding that we already provided was really for construction purposes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was a question I had too with the Place Louverture. I think for me, I just being transparent, I'm trying to see the value in the product. I'm not sure if I see it. I know we, as a trust, we have put out $500,000 of resources towards, first-time home buyers. That's a resource. We have another $500,000 in home rehab and first-time. So that's like $1 million already that's out there committed to like home ownership and addressing the home, acquiring home ownership, or just being able to affordable housing crisis in Little Haiti. We've already put $750,000 towards Place Louverture. So I'm just doing the numbers, and we're going above like almost $2 million. And I haven't quite, as a person on the board in the community, I haven't quite seen a turnaround yet. And I'm just not seeing and I know you said these things take time, but I would feel confident seeing something completed first before I put more money out there. So that's like my concern. Like I see you guys are like bringing resources to people who may not be able to find the funding. But like I said, we already putting funding out there. I just feel like there's a lot of money being put out there. I'm not seeing the turnaround I would like to see from my perspective. And even with this, like Madam Chair said, she's like, okay, you're gonna check back in with us in November, and it looks like that's gonna be another $300,000. So when I'm looking at all the resources that's really being put out there, I don't know if this is bang for the buck, so to speak. Yeah, and that's why I'm just still grappling with it. I'm trying to read and I'm trying to really understand, but maybe it's because I don't understand how these projects work, but my understanding is the way people get funded is Okay, I don't have enough money for a down payment, or whether it's a financial thing, or I don't have equity in my home, and I bring resources together. I think the trust has kind of put that out there. We haven't gotten, I guess, the kind of reception from the community that we've gotten, that we wanted. But I don't think it's the money thing. I think it might be a communication thing. I just don't think $140,000 this year and then possibly 150 will close the gap in communication and lack of information that I see. I want to see us as a board and as a community make sure the information is out there first. Like really, 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 really out there. People can really get the information. And then if that doesn't work, then I would feel comfortable putting more funds out there. But this, to me, I just can't, from my perspective, see how this is going to push forward what we've been working towards. And that's just me being candid.
Through the chair. Mr. Vice Chair, I now understand why it's not clear to you. I know that you all have doubled down in trying to be able to make sure that individuals can be able to be home buyer ready, and in being able to figure out how they can be able to see that pipeline. This particular effort is a bit different. It's focusing on building units. And so when we're thinking about, and so when you think about, I'd like to talk a little bit about Place Louverture and then talk about our efforts, because I think they are very different, but I want to make sure I explain how they're different, and so that hopefully I can be able to answer your questions. Okay, so for Place Louverture, I will say that project was in the pipeline, and we saw it and we believed in it. When you think about a land trust, making sure that there's a pipeline of homeowners that are being able to do it through a land trust, that's really hard to make happen, and you all took a risk. We also took a risk. The South Florida Community Land Trust also took a risk on that front, right? And it is coming right now to fruition. It has the city, it has the county, it has the trust, it has Miami Homes for all these different players coming together. But what I will tell you is on that particular program, we also need a pipeline of individuals that are ready to be able to buy those homes, right, when that emerges. And so we invested initially in the pre-development, not the gap funding for South Florida Community Land Trust, and we were actually here when Mandy came here for the request as well, and explaining our support on that front. But what is really vital, and we're standing ready to be able to do that as it relates to our also supporting and connection to the community, is making sure that there's a pipeline of owners that are ready for those opportunities once the shovel hits, kind of breaks ground. And it's been challenging because you don't want to get people's hopes up as it relates to getting themselves ready for the pipeline of these opportunities, the units that would emerge with Place Louverture. So you're getting them ready, and then the units aren't yet built, and so trying to be able to balance that out. I will say that as it relates to a partnership on Place Louverture, no matter you invest on it or not today, we're still a partner on Place Louverture because it's one of our projects, and as that project is realized, we will, in partnership, without additional dollars or anything from us on that front, because it was a project that was already part of our process, we'll be helping in support the pipeline of homeowners that could be ready in collaboration with the Haitian American CDC. So that's Place Louverture, and it is an important project. And I will say that when we meet with Mandy, when we meet with the county, when we meet with the city, and when we're hearing from you today, it's one where you don't want to give up on it, right? But when you think about land in a trust, right, and being able to make sure that there's ownership opportunities, it's unique. And it's hard to be able to get done. But the reason Mandy hasn't given up, and I think why all of us have not given up as partners within this process, is that we've got to show that it can be done and show what we learned from it and show how it can't take so long. That's as it relates to the South Florida Community Land Trust and that particular project. And I do sense your interest in wanting to be able to see it happen. Let's see people in their homes and let's see how that pays off. So that's one particular piece. I also heard you say we've invested in home rehabs and the individual homeowners that are trying to be able to just make sure that they can hold on to their own properties. That is an important investment. It's a different type of investment than what we're talking about. And so I think that when you're wanting to be able to have people become aware of the opportunities, when we're talking about and I'm going to talk about how what our project is as well and explain it a little bit more. we could explore how we could collaborate as we're talking about finding those 4 or 5 projects. We could explore through that community outreach, how do we get the word out with efforts that you're trying to be able to say, look, we have money. We have the ability to be able to help you if you own your homes. This is how we want you to be able to take advantage of these opportunities, and you just haven't seen them come to the table for the individual landowners. I'd say, and Annie's not here, but I turn back, and hopefully I'm not over speaking, but I believe that there's an opportunity for us to collaborate in getting the word out with those opportunities that you may feel frustrated that you're like, we've approved this, we want these things to happen, we just don't feel like that people are aware of it, and how can we be able to partner on this, because this is in fact a partnership. And now I'm going to take a little step back, step over here, because it's about the project that we're talking about today. And so you have individuals, and I know this because of the pipeline sourcing that we were talking about before, that we're starting to figure out what the next projects will be. We do have other projects that we want to be able to start researching. Haitian American CDC is already identifying individuals that are ready to be able to start developing their homes, developing their properties, not to be able to just rehab it so that they can be able to stay on it, but they want to build more units. They want, when we talked about the additional units and kind of quoting the numbers outright, we want to bring out additional units that are not currently in existence, so that, and the units that would emerge through this particular project would be affordable units. And so when we're thinking about how do we create an opportunity where people that own their property can be able to not only build their own individual wealth, but do it in a way that the people that are living in the community can also stay here at a rent, typically a rent, when we're talking about rentals, at a rent rate that can keep them able to rent, and that they're not priced out of their community. And so that combination is very rare. It's hard to be able to find the supports needed to find the funding, the subsidies that would allow you to realize a project that keeps the rents low. And the only way that you can really keep the rents low in that way is to tap into maybe some help, at times from the trust, but it has to be more than just the trust, right? And when we're thinking about who else is at the table, we're thinking about the county, we're thinking about the city, we're thinking about different funders as part of this funders collaborative that we're bringing to the table. And so I think what's different about this is that what we're saying is there are some individuals that own their land. They may have a house on it. They may have a duplex on it, but they are now able to, if they get the supports needed on different levels of this process, that they can have a quad, they can have 4 units, maybe they can have 6 units. And with that, their individual wealth building grows, but then so do the opportunities for affordable units that people that live in this community can be able to stay and can afford living here. And so and the timeline that we talked about, although it seems a bit long, when you think about Dr. Bestman started in the program, applied for it in 2024, this year we've secured the funding. And then within the secured funding, construction begins, and then hopefully we have people in the units in 2027. I will tell you, as my background, I'm not in construction. I'm learning a lot within this program as I coordinate these different pieces. And that timeline, for what it's worth, it seems like it's long, but it's actually quite aggressive in realizing success. And I know some of you are in the construction business or have a lot of development experience and know that that's in fact true when we're trying to get a lot of different projects approved. And so I would only say this. The South Florida Community Land Trust Program, the land trust with home ownership opportunities and being able to keep it affordable, not just home ownership, but keeping it affordable, is hard. And what you find in Miami Homes for All is a partner in trying to be able to realize that success. That's one project that is very different than what this project is, but we stand in collaboration, in partnership to help make sure that that succeeds. That your investment of the $750,000, if I'm remembering correctly, it gets realized. That our investment of the TA and the $100,000 and the approach that we're trying to be able to tap into gets realized. That's one thing. But over here, on this other hand, what we're proposing, 4 to 5 of those projects, likely not home ownership. It could be home ownership, but maybe not home ownership because we're seeing that it makes most sense. It's easier to be able to keep things affordable through this process, through a rental model, but the landowners will be building individual wealth, staying in their communities, building generational wealth for their families, and the people that are going to be moving into their projects are individuals that we're hoping are from Little Haiti, because we're working very closely with the community and obviously with community partners in partnership with you. Sure.
Just real quick, just to add, I mean, just in terms of like thinking about Little Haiti, like I spoke at an event at the Little Haiti Revitalization Trust, I think, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, in May, even long, time flies. But I think like even just in that conversation, it was a real estate development 101. People came in interested in learning how to develop on their properties. A lot of them were property owners. There's maybe 20 people in the room, 30. 6 came up to me afterwards and followed up with me saying, hey, like we don't have access to this. Like we want to be able to, we own property. We want to be able to provide it to our community. We don't know how to do it. And like a real estate 101 can say, this is a good idea maybe, but you need someone there with you like for the long haul to make that possibility a reality. And so then, you know, for them, I'm like, hey, we're going to try to raise money and get you this programming. But without that, we can't like help those people. And so I think that's really, yeah, it's important to just think about like what's happening to those people, those property owners, and if they don't have the opportunity to create affordable units on it, to preserve it, where it's going as well, because it could be sold off. It's, you know, it's difficult to keep, to preserve those properties here right now.
Me, if I may. So from a property development standpoint, the cost is what the cost is, right? And so the only way you get affordability out of the cost, somebody has to buy that down. And that's where subsidies come in. When government puts subsidies to kind of lower the cost of the development, now I can talk about all of these variations of AMI. Mm-hmm. But without any subsidies, typically, it's all market rate because I have to pay 100% of everything. That's my land costs, my development costs, and everything. And if I have to put all that out, and you tell me now I have to shave my returns by 40 and 50%, I'm dead. And so the only way it happens is with the buy down of subsidies. And so whenever we start talking about affordability, we have to understand somewhere along the way there has to be some collaboration to find the subsidies. And I think they're saying that's the role that they're helping us serve as a consultant when they do the technical assistance. It's not just us funding. We're paying for the technical assistance as a test to see if it works for us, right? But if they have someone who comes in with their land, and let me tell you, I represent developers who, these guys have all the technical background in the world on that team. He's going to have a whole lot of technical background on his team. Related who I represent, a whole lot of technical background. They can deal with any application, any grant process, the permit. They can deal with all of that in-house or hire a consultant. If you're talking about individual landowners in this community, they're typically going to be clueless on how to get that done. And so this is almost like a one-stop shop for some of those small folk to be able to go in and get that technical assistance to show them how that gets done and how they can leverage that for some grant dollars and some other things. Go ahead, you want to say something?
I was going to say, so what you're describing is us investing in educating the community. That's what we're doing.
It's educating the community, and they're doing the technical applications for them to help them get all of that stuff done.
Yeah.
Because when you get these volumes of applications, most people look at it, they're intimidated. I'm not going to mess with it.
Exactly.
And so you're getting them as young stewards who have a social agenda to try to help out. They say, we're willing to do that for some of these projects based on this money. And so that becomes a great conduit. Obviously, you need to have reports that come back to show how the money is being used and whether or not there's any progress. And maybe there's a 6-month report before you get into a possible extension. You want to be able to see what has happened with that money. But there is a technical gap between small property owners and big property owners. There's a gap even with me sometimes learning it for big clients. Oh, I didn't know we can do that. You know, wow. And so it becomes something that's very, very important. I had some other questions. It wasn't so much about the program. I think the program I like. I wanted to ask some questions like, right now, what is your total annual budget?
I'll turn that over to
Okay.
For this program specifically, or organization?
What organization?
I want to say around 5 million operating.
Okay. I was hoping it was a bigger number like that. I mean, somewhere like that. And who are your sources? I know Miami-Dade County is one.
So we have a significant funding from major donors, so private funding, JP Morgan Chase, City Foundation. We also have funding from Miami Foundation, as well as Knight Foundation gave us $1 million for the Funders Collaborative. And so most of our funding are coming from banks, as well as private dollars.
Is the city of Miami doing anything itself?
We just received money from Omni CRA, not from the city.
Not from the city. I would suggest that we work with you to try to see if we can get the city to do something too.
We did receive city funding in the past, but right now we currently have funding from the Omni CRA.
But the partnerships can go in all different levels, so
Yeah.
that sounds good.
The only reason I said that I have to be very real about who we are and what we have. You understand? We're a very, very limited trust. We're trying to make a major impact in the community with peanuts. And so we're trying to leverage it as best we can. And that's why I recognize this helps leverage the dollars that you have in your pipeline, the 5 million plus others that ultimately comes in. It's not that we're going to get these projects done, these 4 or 5 projects for $140,000. It's the fact that they have this other wingspan to be able to help those folks once they've done the technical stuff, because now people will have a greater appreciation for the application because it's technically sufficient now. And so that's why I wanted to ask that question about your funding. Now, one of them, I have several questions. There was a project where you mentioned, maybe it was the Bestman project, where you talk about $697 a month for a 1-bedroom. Is that Bestman? So obviously that's an admirable rate to have somebody in at. My concern and question is, how do you deal with the maintenance on that facility going forward? Because $697 does nothing for that. So how are you dealing with the maintenance to make sure you're not creating a development that ultimately becomes an eyesore over the years? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, so like when you, sorry, we're at different heights. Right, when you're looking at a budget, right, when you're asking for debt, right, it includes it's like a 20-year or 30-year pro forma, as you're familiar, like, and so like that includes, some of that is, you know, the cost to operate the house. It's reserve, like vacancies, it's some reserves, like if something goes wrong. And so we've worked with these developers, we worked with Dr. Bestman to create those like pro formas, and so that's included in the budget. So the grant subsidy, like the forgivable loan from Omni CRA allows them to rent this out for peanuts, right, for such a low cost, because they're still able to pay for the maintenance, for everything else, for the construction, for everything that's needed to not only create the house or the rental unit now, but to continue operating with it on it for the future, with such a small amount of money coming in from rental.
And I know that you know the Starks well, right? And that if you own properties and the notion of being able to maintain them for the long haul, generationally, and how do you keep them affordable for the long haul is a challenge. Let's be candid with that. You know, when we think about the pro formas, they contemplate that, but then you can't predict what regular life is going to bring to the individuals that own the property and how they're going to manage it. There are requirements linked to the funding sources, which are important. But I do think this is an important effort as we're thinking through the next phase and stage of this work, that we need to be able to think about systemically, how do we contemplate that challenge? And when you reflect upon the city's role, the county's role, and systems change, and when we really think about how we can most leverage our roles within the process, that's going to be an important component as well. We are working through the pre-development stage. We're in the midst of construction for with the 10 developers in the 14, 15 projects that are working through. But we we have not arrived at the management of the properties and the challenges that will ultimately be realized when we get there. And I think that what we are positioned to be able to say is that we are not going away. This is very mission aligned with trying to be able to make sure that that's another phase of the project. Yes, performance contemplated all, and we just recognize that no matter what, it's also a challenge when we think about regular life, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line, that this does not end up being a project that that they're not well maintained.
Well, in my experience, absent covenant.
Excuse me, public comment is closed. We do not take any comments from the public. Thank you.
Absent covenants, oftentimes I see developments that have taken place, and they're beautiful when they go in, and they erode. And although they may have this requirement for capitalization that's already been funded to the project, nobody really snatches it unless they're not getting paid. As long as everybody's still getting paid, nobody really cares. So I would just hope that the ones that we support as a board has some sort of maintenance covenants involved with that to make sure those facilities continue to look that way going forward. And maybe there's some penalty provisions in there for that. So I think that's important for me.
Through the chair. I think that's important for us to elevate here. I know that the projects that we do have that have been funded through subsidies also have affordability covenants. We'll go back just to confirm what these particular covenants include as it relates to management, just so that we're all on the same page. And when we think through the 4 to 5 projects that we're going to be bringing forward in the near term, if this item does proceed, that we can be able to make sure that we work along with you all in regards to what you'd like to see included.
All right, a few more questions. You talked about a lot of the work that you've done through 3C with the Bestman project. If you had to add a number of what your cost has been as an organization, salary and all the other technical experience, what would that be to date on that project?
When you're thinking about the TA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we think about the TA, so our for that particular project, can I be able to come back to you specifically about that particular, like by project? I will say that.
Is it more than 50,000?
Yes.
Is it more than 100?
No, not by that project.
Okay.
No.
But that's one project, right?
Correct.
And so when we think about 4 to 5 projects, when you look at the technical assistant, it could be a big number for 1 or 2 projects. So they're leveraging other monies in order to get that technical stuff done.
Yes.
So
Can I just add to that, just for
Yes.
that point? When we think about, because I was hesitant, right? Because in the line item, we have consultants that are on board, but we also have my role, Annie Lord's role, Govin's role. Those are all elements that are not identified as TA. And so when we're thinking about that particular effort, that is not quantified when you're seeing the budget per se, when we're looking at it from that perspective. When you look at the funders collaborative and the preparation that's needed to be able to prepare for a application that moves forward on that front as well, that's also efforts that are in place. And then I will say, even with the funded components that we have within the TA, we can be able to, we have anticipated that the model would include particular points of supports, but that is not, but with the level of support and readiness to address needs, it has gone beyond what's on paper. When we have a developer, a client, an individual that's developing their property, and they get asbestos or identified in their property, when they find out that they've got termites, when they find out that there's a code violation, when they find out the fact that they needed to be able to file an affordability certificate at a specific time and they didn't, the development process is not linear. And in being able to not deviate from that particular process with our project developers is a commitment that you have from the full team that's in place. And so that's beyond what a consultant is. When you hire a consultant, oftentimes the consultant will be paid by the hour. This is not charged hourly. This is on being present and being ready to be able to address all of the elements required for the pre-development phase, which can be complex, and then also from the submission of the applications to the signing of contracts. And so in being able to note that it isn't an hourly rate, and so to your point, sir, I do believe that when you think about the monies that are allocated for the 4 to 5 projects, if we were to quantify it hourly, it would be much more than $150,000.
Last thing that I would say is, I want to be, again, very honest with you. As you go through these 4 or 5 applications, if this is approved, these potential projects, if this legislation is approved, there may not be an opportunity from us to do another 750 or 500. I'm just being honest, because I noticed you said this was this, and then we'll be looking at other grant applications, potentially even from us participating in that. A lot of that would depend on what we have. So I just didn't want to give any false promises that if you identify some great projects that we probably would end up having the funding to be part of that source. Maybe we can work with you with the city to see if we can identify it, or through your other funding collaborations you might be able to. We would hope that. But I don't want to give this false sense that we have municipal money.
No,
over here.
that's fair. That's fair, and I think where we're at this juncture is recognizing what we're developing is a partnership. A partnership, if approved, that can be able to contemplate the importance of having individuals that are from the community ready to be able to seek out funding from other sources. If there are priorities that you emerge with your strategic plan that kind of some of it fits the bill for a certain amount of money, that's great. We want to make sure that they're ready for that. But it's also being able to jointly go to the city, jointly go to the county, jointly go to the funders collaborative meetings and demonstrate that there's a unified front on behalf of those developers.
This would be my final question. I'm thinking, I know you have a blueprint of what y'all want to see happen. You have your product that y'all want to present. But we do have, I think, I'm just speaking from my perspective on the board, we do have projects that we have launched that I think can be satisfied, maybe with some support. Would y'all be open to also helping us push those current initiatives along, like first-time home buyer, maybe being able to identify some folks that may be qualified for our current programs, because that has not been exhausted, I don't think, and as well as the home rehab programs, just identifying, I think those could be testers and feelers for more complicated projects down the road, like this one would be, because I think we could use some support with that. I'm just speaking as someone who has allocated those funds, and I haven't seen that kind of, bounce back happen yet from the community. So,
yeah, I will say, and I turned just to make sure to the deputy director and make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn, but I will say that in our community outreach, that's going to be a natural component that we can be able to partner on. I think even beyond this particular application and proposal for consideration, I think it's really important to note that the programs that you've already approved are mission aligned to Miami Homes for All also, and how best we could be able to partner with, beyond this particular effort to create awareness for it.
Okay.
No, and I hope that I'm not speaking out of turn for Miami Home for All with what I'm about to say, is that just listening, to the board members, I feel like there's a consensus that there's not enough information as far as the projects and what they're going to yield, as far as the number of units. And I just would maybe want to propose that if we could continue with the timeline of maybe identifying some projects, bringing back the information so that, like, we know lot size, we know maybe potential number of units, and so maybe potentially deferring the vote so that you would have more information on the projects. Would that be helpful, is what I'm trying to ask.
No, I think we can make a motion to approve the project.
Okay.
Approve the item with a few caveats.
Okay.
One, that we get some sort of report back. Doesn't have to be a major report, but something every 3 months, so 3, 6, 9. So at least we have at least some feel of what's going on. And then as we have this collaboration talking about these potential projects, maybe we will like some of the ones they're thinking about. Maybe we have some others that we may want to swap out. And I think they say they were open to that discussion. So I think the item can move with those 2 caveats.
And through the chair, I would only say that's what we envision in being able to do that with you all.
motion was that Board Member Toussaint would fund this initiative.
Before
No,
but I was just gonna say, just going back to what Ashley stated, we haven't seen an update with that project, and I think when it goes to replace Louverture, I haven't seen an update on that. South Florida Land Trust,
The
yes.
Land Trust, I actually spoke to Mandy last week. They're having difficulty closing on their loan with the county. They actually had to get the mayor's office involved, but when I spoke to her last week, she was saying that she had a meeting scheduled and she feels confident that the closing is going to come. So that's been the issue. The county has been the one that has been delaying this project, but she's working on it, and she sounded hopeful last time I spoke to her. I believe it was last week.
And I guess it just goes to what Ashley was saying. He hasn't seen that. So when we're talking about investing, so we're asking, if approved, $140,000. We're asking for 369. We invested 750. We probably should be seeing that at least 5 times a year, or just an update at every board meeting, because we invested so much. So just, for moving forward, when we're investing money in that amount in significance, they should be here letting us know what the update on the project is. So,
Understood. I had spoken to her about coming, and she said if she had better information that she would be able to attend. But just to also let everyone know that we have not dispersed any of those funds.
good job.
Okay. We have that money because in order for us to even close on the grant agreement, they have to provide us, because remember, it's hard costs that we're reimbursing them. So in order for us to close on that grant agreement, they have to have the builder's insurance. So until they provide that, RIS will not allow us to even enter into a grant agreement. So our budget for the next year, actually, we're at 6.8. We've been growing with our interest that we're earning on our dollars because we haven't dispersed certain funding.
Okay.
All right, so the motion was to approve the item with reports coming back to us every 3 months, 369, and that we have a collaboration with the consultant on the projects, whatever project we want to, and that's a motion.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item is Resolution 2025-015, Miami-Dade College.
Yes. So this is for the construction job training in which we would be working with Miami-Dade College to provide electrical, HVAC, and plumbing at the dollar amount. For electrical would be $21.24, HVAC is $22.24, and plumbing helper is $2,449. That's the dollar amount per student. So this would allow us to enter into negotiations for a minimum of 15 students per class for a total of $135,940. This resolution will allow us to enter into that agreement so that we would be able to advertise for Little Haiti residents to be able to choose one of these 3 classes at 15, for up to 15 students. It would take place at Miami-Dade College. Also, Clota, it wants to co-brand this construction job training class with us. They haven't given me a specific dollar amount, but they are willing to use some of their funding to be able to fund this $135,000.
And how many classes? Because you said 15.
It's 15 students, but it depends on the class, how long it takes. Like, for example, some require 8 weeks, like, because they're going 2 times a week, it's a certain number of levels. But I say not one of them goes longer than 3 months. I believe it was like about 2. Every class has a certain hour requirement.
So the 135 would just be for 15 people?
No, it would be for 45.
45, that's what, so
Yeah,
it's three
sorry.
different
It's-
sessions,
yeah,
got it,
it's-
okay.
It's 15 for each of
Uh,
the
so- Cohorts,
trades.
got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Question, we're only paying for the students that actually go though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the maximum would be this 135. If we get less students, then we would pay less dollars. That's how they would bill.
Testing. Yeah, so then students would be residents within Little Haiti boundaries, similar to all of our programs. All right.
Yes, so everybody would have to prove their residency. The classes take place at Miami-Dade College North. I know at the last time we discussed this, Alyssa had asked me to check out the campus on 7th Avenue, but they were told that they are not able to accommodate like the physical part of the training at that location, at the Cary Meek on 7th Avenue.
And I would suggest a 50-50 split with Clota if they want to co-brand it.
I will make that request. They
Is
have
there-
not given us an official dollar
What's
amount.
so what's the amount that Clota has so far to disperse?
$900,000.
All right.
Because they've committed to the amount towards Pierre Toussaint. They
Okay,
have $1
that
million.
half, okay. They did
So-
100,000.
So they've done 100,000.
Okay.
So they have 900,000.
Would we be able to, if that's not in writing, would that be ready
Oh,
for
it
us?
would be in writing, because we actually, even for Pierre Toussaint, we had them write, what is it called when the board members write a statement?
An
Like a
addendum?
board order? No, what was it called?
We have them, so I don't
Oh, sorry.
do the thing. We have them usually execute like a corporate resolution so
Okay.
that, you know, it's clear that the organization is offering it and not just a single individual.
Yeah, I agree. I echo, there needs to be some type of investment back. And whatever number we decide upon, I'll feel comfortable making a motion when there's a number and an agreement amount.
Yeah, matter of fact, why don't we defer this until they come back with that number?
Yeah.
And we're requesting 50%.
Okay.
Let's see what they come back with.
All right, 50%.
The next item, Resolution 2025-016. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm not
I
going to
wrote
do
it
it.
down so I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Mocinary Program. Okay. So this is a program that was done at the city in which it provided assistance to nonprofit charitable organizations, which are mostly churches, to assist them in their obtaining their 40 to 50-year certification. It was a successful program through D5. However, the funding that they allocated to the program is done. And so we would like to consider bringing this program for entities that are within Little Haiti, because there is still a need, right? So we're talking about churches that are in the area that need additional repair or upgrades to their location. The dollar request that we're asking for is $150,000. Each organization would only be able to apply for $50,000. So it would be a maximum of 3 that we would be able to assist with this initial funding.
Would it be up to 50? It could be less than
Yes,
50.
it
So
could
it
be
could be
less.
more than 3 technically. Yeah.
It could be more than 3, but yeah, 3 would be the maximum that we could do if they each got 50.
If they each got 50, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I would just add, it's churches by way of example. It's not solely to churches.
Okay, so it's
just-
nonprofit, it said nonprofits, right?
Yeah, it's nonprofit, engaging in charity.
Can it be like a personal, like a private owner as well, or it has to be nonprofits? Nonprofit only?
Nonprofit.
Do we have an idea about how many are in the area that may be having certification issues?
Know that there is one church that's very close to here that had applied for this program. By the time they applied, the funding had run out. I don't know how many churches, I know there are a lot of different churches in the area, but I don't know how many. Or not, I mean, because it's open to nonprofits as well.
Yeah, that, I don't, it becomes a slippery slope with the nonprofits. And I'd rather have some sort of feel for what's out there in the universe of Lower Haiti. Nonprofits with buildings, obviously they're in a building that's an older building, and the same thing with churches. Can you see if there's a way of getting an inventory on what that is?
Yes. I'm going to have to do some research because I'm trying to think how we would find out who is a nonprofit and then
They're not
who.
paying taxes. They'll tell
Yeah,
you
and then but also have ownership, like through property appraiser. Like I would have to do research to find out that like how I can gather that information.
Yeah, I think it's important because right now, if we're putting that out there, kind of like what we're going through with the home buyers, and we put a number out there,
Yeah.
and then we're seeing we're not getting any bites, and this could be
It's now obligated for a while until.
yeah, this could be a situation where it could be the opposite, right? We might put it out there, and there might be a lot more need. So I don't know what the need is, so it's kind of hard for me to get married to this number because I don't know what the need is for this. That's just me trying to make a decision around the numbers.
Well, I think as with everything that we do, we kind of do it until funds are exhausted, right? And then we can replenish, like if the board would like to. So that could be something that we, consider to see so that we can kind of evaluate what the need is. As far as, I would say like for home rehab, one thing that we haven't seen high numbers, but because we do require for the homeowner to apply to the city's program first and get denied. So we do have some instances where they come to us for our program, but
They haven't gone to the city first.
we make them go to the city and then they qualify for the city. They income certify. And only if they get denied, like we just had a denial from the city the other day, they send us the denial letter in order for them to now go through for us. And she was denied because the value of her property was too high for the city. So I do have those numbers from the city because I do request. He did send me the spreadsheet, and I will report that at the next board meeting. So we have a better indication of, even though we're not seeing them, but they're getting done through the city's program. So I will make sure that's on the CEO report next month, okay?
I would like to make a motion to defer this item pending that we get more research on the need.
Okay.
So a motion is to defer this item pending we get more research on the need for nonprofits in the Little Haiti area.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll go to resolution 4F 2025-017, standard operating procedures.
So I am bringing back the standard operating procedures. The only edit is in reference to travel for a conference, to attend a conference. So it previously stated that the president and CEO approved travel for employees. However, there was no process for the actual president and CEO. So what we did was update the SOP to reflect that any request to attend conferences or travel, the president and CEO would request that from the board.
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
CEO report? Okay. So just starting administrative updates, the trust has moved their office to the Little Haiti Park. So at the Commissioner D5's office, so we are there to greet and serve people at that location as well. For programming updates, we held the graduation for the financial literacy class, our third cohort that we do with Catholic Charities. We also launched the scholarship program on October 1st, and I want to thank Vice Chair for attending the launch of the scholarship program. Applications are able to be submitted online. I'm happy to report that we've already received 5 applicants. We have not had a chance to review and vet and ask, but we have received applications through the online portal. We will still have the physical applications online electronically as well if people would like to complete. So we're happy that that program is already receiving applications. For the heat sensor project, we are now going to be going through the retrieval process. So this week we'll be going to the homes to retrieve the sensors and then give the families their gift certificates, the second 150 for participating in this program. As far as upcoming events, on this past Saturday, the Trust participated at the Center for Haitian Studies, had a community health fair, and we tabled at that event. Tomorrow, we are going to be having a safe infant sleep roundtable, actually just dealing about child safety, and we're going to have representatives such as doctors, nurses, social workers, DCF, and other community partners to address child safety. We're going to talk about human trafficking as well. That's happening tomorrow from 10 a.m. to noon. And then we have our community meeting to focus on the strategic plan on October 30th. Next, we have the small business grant updates. We highlighted in red some new applications that we've received, so we're still receiving new applications in regards to that. And then we also have the home rehab grant application. It looks like we have approved, just as I was stating, like we have people who have been approved for the city and who's been submitted to the city. And then I just wanted to talk about 2 conferences that I have attended. One is the Affordable Housing Conference, and the second was the Florida Redevelopment Conference that happened just last week. And then at the end, you have your financial report, which we are at the end of the fiscal year, so we are wrapping up our numbers, and then we'll be working on our annual audit. And that's the end of my CEO report.
Questions from the board? Okay, any discussion items? No? Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Awesome.
I still didn't beat you.
So he beat me at 6:45, I think, or 6:59, I think. It was important, though. It was important.
Well, the thing is, I don't think there needs to be a discussion, but like, you asked for, like, we're supposed to bring it back. That's what I'm saying.